Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Well, my goodness gracious, that was a horrible weekend for the New York Mets as the Tampa Bay Rays put on the finishing touches of a 3-game sweep at Citi Field. Home cooking had been the recipe for the Mets this entire season so far. They entered with a historic record at Citi Field here in 2025, and the Tampa Bay Rays came in and absolutely bullied them, putting the punctuation mark on it all here today on Sunday afternoon with a shutout 9-0 victory as Griffin Canning is roughed up. The bullpen doesn't pitch a whole lot better. The Mets do not get a single hit with runners in scoring position and again don't score a single run. A final of 9-0. Wow, wretched series from the New York Mets. Very, very tough watch this weekend from the Orange and Blue. Guys, what is up? I am Tony Metro. If you're new to the channel, I do daily Mets streams. I do post-game recaps. I do daily content. So be sure to subscribe. Also, leave this stream a like. Really appreciate it. Goes a long way toward helping the channel out, keeping things going over here. You could also follow me on all the other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Links to all those are in the description below. So let's get right into it. My goodness, this was, in my opinion, probably the worst that the Mets have looked this entire season so far here in 2025, from top to bottom, without a doubt. So let's talk about the entirety of the series. Let's begin on Friday. Things are looking pretty good. The Mets jump out to a 5-1 lead. Clay Holmes has gone 5 innings, only giving up 1 run on a solo shot. He gets taken out of the game. And the bullpen absolutely implodes in the form of Max Kranick and of Paul Blackburn. The Rays never look back. The Mets an opportunity to come back in that game, but what holds them back in that one, they go 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position on Friday. Then yesterday, they come out again, get a 2-1 lead. Tyler McGill with arguably the worst starting pitching performance of the season to that point, at least, and the Rays again run away with it. The Mets again failing to cash in on some opportunities with the lineup, and they lose that game by a final score of 8-4. And then we have today, Father's Day, a day for, all the dads in our lives, right? Brought us to our first ball game. A lot of these guys are dads and, have dads that probably taught them how to catch and throw a ball and hit a ball. And how do they honor them? But going out and playing maybe the worst game they've played of 2025, and that's saying something because I thought yesterday may have been their worst game of the season, but this one may have one-upped it for sure. And I'm kidding about the Father's Day thing, but happy Father's Day to all out there, to all the dads out there, to all the grandpas out there. If you are a dad, happy Father's Day. But my goodness, the Mets did not do a good job of giving you much of a Father's Day gift here on Sunday afternoon. Griffin Canning potentially having the worst start of the season of any Mets starter outside of Tyler McGill's yesterday. So the Mets immediately just have almost no chance in this game, as in the top of the second. Just a really sloppy inning from the Mets, a couple of walks. They end up getting a force out that scores a run, then a wild pitch from Griffin Canning. Then you have the single from Danny Jansen, and then Magnum grounds into a force out. You have the runners taking extra bases, and it's just chaos as they jump out immediately to a 3-0 lead in the second, and then again come back in the third with another run to make it 4-0. The Mets with opportunities offensively. Pete Alonso with the bases loaded in the bottom of the fourth. He strikes out swinging. The Mets as a team go 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position today. And you know what? It really didn't matter because the Mets bullpen didn't hold their end of the bargain either. And, I don't blame them personally for it because no one on this team really did their job this entire weekend. But they end up going to Kranick. He pitches 2 innings. He didn't give up any runs. They go to Adcock, who actually strikes out 4 batters in an inning and 2/3. So, okay, good for you, Ty Adcock. And then Stanek ends up giving up a 3-run shot in the 9th inning to just put the cherry on top of this crap Sunday that was a weekend for the New York Mets against Tampa Bay. Really just, in my opinion, the worst that we have seen the Mets look so far in 2025. And it is a total team effort in how poorly they played this weekend. It's not just the starting pitching. It's not just the bullpen. It's not Mendoza's choice to pull Clay Holmes after 5 innings on Friday. The lineup was responsible as well for how they performed this weekend. And it all adds up to their first sweep of the season here in 2025. So let's get into it. I want to say this before I go any further. No, the season is not over. No, this is not the beginning of the end. They are not going to go on a 10-game losing streak. I still have a lot of faith in this ball club, but this was a reality check for sure, because the Mets had a really soft spot in their schedule where they got to play the Rockies 6 times of, I think it was probably 12 or 15 games. And then they ended up playing the Nationals at home for 3, who are a little bit better than a lot of people want to give them credit for, probably. But Tampa Bay is a great team. My goodness. Tampa Bay is one of the most pesky, annoying teams that I can remember facing off against. I mean, this was like watching the Kansas City Royals from 2015. They can draw walks, they can put the ball in play, they can bunt for base hits, they have speed, they take extra bases, they steal bases. They were so annoying. I never, ever want to see the Tampa Bay Rays again. That was just mind-numbing. 2-out hits to bring in runs. Just such a frustrating series against this team. They put the pedal to the metal. I mean, how many multi-run innings did the Rays have in this series? I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of at least 5, maybe 6, and more of them in the 3 to 5 run range. Not just like, oh, they put up 2, like, oh, okay, no, but like 3 runs, 4 runs, 5 runs. They had the 6-run inning in the 6th on Friday night against Paul Blackburn and Max Kranick. I mean, this was just such a tough watch. And not only did the Rays, I think, play an excellent brand of baseball, but like I said, this was probably the worst that I've seen the Mets so far in 2025. Defensively, not hitting cutoff men, not making plays that you accustomed to them making. The errors yesterday from Tyler McGill and from Jose Castillo, passed balls, wild pitches. It just is a really, really tough weekend for the Mets here. Let's talk a little bit about the pitching, though. Let's get into the starters. So Canning ends up with a final line of 6 innings pitched. Only gave up 4 hits, but the problem, 5 walks in this one. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 6 earned runs on 5 walks and 4 hits. You just can't give that to this Rays team. I mean, a team like them, the way they are built, with the speed they have, with the contact that they have in this lineup, just putting the ball in play, it adds up to a lot of runs in the end, and it's clearly the worst start of Griffin Canning's Mets tenure so far. So that's now 2 consecutive starts, not 2 consecutive, but in his last 2 starts for Griffin Canning, a total of 10 earned runs. So obviously, the murmurs have began about the Mets rotation. It's a bad weekend for the Mets rotation for sure. Obviously, on Friday, Clay Holmes pitched well in the 5 innings that he pitched, only gave up that solo shot. We all don't understand why he didn't go back out for the 6th until we realize it's because he didn't recover well from his previous start in Colorado. So now the question is, well, are they putting him on an innings limit? Is this going to be something that affects his ability to go deep into games as they manage his transition from a relief pitcher to a starter? That's a question mark in itself. You have Tyler McGill yesterday absolutely blowing up in the 4th inning there. It can't even get out of it. Ends up with 6 runs in that game. The error, the wild pitches. McGill's always been a question mark. We've never been able to peg him or rely on him. So now what do we do with Tyler McGill? And then today, Canning coming into the day clearly has been not his same type of pitcher that he was for the first couple times through the rotation, first 10, 11 times through the rotation this season. And now we're starting to wonder, well, is Griffin Canning kind of coming back to earth? So it's very concerning for sure. I am not falling off the cliff with them yet. I'm not saying that there's no way they can all bounce back to form or closer to what they were doing in the beginning of the season, but you can't bury your head in the sand either and pretend like the starting pitching was not a big concern this week. No, by the way, Frankie Montas roughed up for 8 runs in his 2 or 3 innings in his minor league rehab assignment. And then you had Sean Manaea pitch today in a rehab assignment in Double-A Brooklyn, and that did not go so well either. Single-A Brooklyn, but you know what I mean. So not a great weekend for the starting pitching at all. Bullpen ERA for this series was 6.59. Before I go further into that, starter ERA for this weekend series, 6.92. Obviously, 6 runs from Canning today. Yesterday, McGill only charged with 3 earned runs, but let's be honest, it was because of his error and because of his wild pitch. 3 extra of those runs not charged to him. The starter ERA should have been significantly higher. If we add it all up, and I'm counting those runs for McGill toward the earned run average for him yesterday, that would mean that Holmes went 5 innings, 1 run on Friday. Yesterday, 3 2/3 for McGill, 6 earned runs, and today 4 1/3 for Canning, 6 runs. So we're talking about 8 innings and 12 runs from Canning and McGill combined. 13 innings and 13 runs for this Mets starting pitching. Just absolutely brutal. Really, really bad weekend for the Mets starters over the weekend against the Tampa Bay Rays. Adam, what is up, man? How are you doing? Appreciate you hopping in the stream. Guys, be sure to leave this video a like. Really appreciate it. It goes a long way toward helping us out here. And subscribe if you're not already. Daily Mets content and daily Mets recaps as well. So we're talking about the starters ERA now. Let's get into the bullpen because let's be honest, they didn't pitch much better at all. They had an ERA of 6.59 here over the week. You know, Friday, of course, really, they're the ones that sunk this game when Paul Blackburn couldn't even get out of the 6th inning. And then Max Kranick came in, threw more gasoline on the Flames, and it turns out to be a 6-run inning for the Rays. They take the lead. The Mets can't mount the comeback, and that's how this all happened. Everyday Mets, what's up? We got henpecked to hell. We did. I never heard of that saying before, henpecked. I guess what you mean is like nickel and dimed, right? Like just little bloop base hits. And they weren't all bloop base hits, but yeah, man, the Rays are a team, man. They put the ball in play. They got good contact rates and they get base hits and they got speed. They take extra bases. And you know what? The Mets weren't prepared for it. The Mets defensively, pitching wise, they issued a lot of walks. It was rough. It was a rough series. The bullpen ERA 6.59. Yesterday, Buteau giving up a run that he inherited from Castillo. And then you had a couple more runs today, those 3 coming off the Ryan Stanek home run. Then you, of course, had Kranick coming into today's game and allowing those inherited runners to score on behalf of Canning as well. So even the bullpen didn't do their job. And, man, it's looking thinner and thinner out in the bullpen. Stanek has not been looking very good lately. I mean, he had the 2 strikeout game yesterday, but overall, the ERA has ballooned back up to 4.88. That is a major concern for me without AJ Minter for the rest of the year. I mean, my goodness, it has been a rough weekend for the Mets pitching for sure. But opponent's average, the Rays hit 315 against Mets pitching this weekend. And I don't know how much of it is an indictment on the Mets pitching this weekend and how much of it is just a credit to the Rays. I think if they play this team again at a different point in the season, which I hope we don't because that was bad, but I don't think it would go as lopsided as this one did. I do believe that, look, they ran into McGill and Canning, who are probably the 2 lowest on the tier of the Mets rotation, and the Mets just didn't field the ball well, didn't pick it, didn't make quality throws to their relay men, you know? And then you add in that they didn't hit very well either, and it adds up to being swept. Adam says, who did bad, who did good? Well, for just today, I mean, who did good today? I don't know. I don't think anybody did particularly well for the Mets today. You get shut out. You have 5 hits across the game. I guess Luis Angel Acuna would be like the lone bright spot if you want to. It's a very dim bright spot if you ask me, but he had 2 knocks in one. Bad day for Pete Alonso. Goes 0 for 4, strikes out in a big spot there with the bases loaded. 0 for 4 for Juan, or 0 for 2 with Soto, but did draw 3 walks. So pretty good day for Juan Soto. But overall, to me, the pitching, I mean, Stanek would be, or Adcock would probably be the only guy of this group that I'm like, okay, yeah, solid. You know, you had Adcock come in and he ends up getting 4 strikeouts and getting 5 outs. So that was nice to see. But then you even had a position player and Jared Young have to come in to this game. So anytime you have a position player coming in and it's not Kike Hernandez because the Dodgers think they're so cute, not a good look. Not a good look for the Mets. But again, the Rays hit 315 as a team for this average. And then the Mets allow 5 of 9 inherited runners to score. So really just not a good pitching performance from the Mets staff from top to bottom. Offensively, again, not a good day for them either. I just went through a couple of the guys, but overall as a team, they leave 12 men on base today. They go 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position against Shane Baz, who, yeah, has top prospect pedigree. Yeah, hasn't really lived up to it though. 4.9 ERA this year. So, I mean, what are we talking about? This guy's hittable. Like, I get it. Any given day, this guy could pitch like the prospect he's supposed to be, like the top frontline starter, but he really hasn't this year. So it's not like they were going up against a prime Madison Bumgarner or Clayton Kershaw staked to a big lead. So it's disappointing to see how the Mets offense performed today. And even yesterday, they only go 2 for 4 with runners in scoring position. That's because they just didn't get enough men on base to mount any rallies. And then on Friday, they go 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position, leave a small village on the base paths, and end up losing that game by 2 runs, despite after pulling Clay Holmes out of the game early and going to Blackburn in that 6th inning. So, I mean, it was just a really bad series for the Mets. There's really no other way to put it, but love the Chanel. What's Chanel? I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, what are your guys' feelings? Let me know in the comment section over here. I want to hear from you guys. What is your big takeaway from this series? For me, it's that Mets have got a lot of things to work on still, and there may now be some questions rising that we didn't have before entering this series. Biggest one to me is the rotation. What's the plan here? Because we did not get very good performances in the minor league rehab assignments from either Sean Manaea or from Frankie Montas. Then you had Paul Blackburn come out trying to pitch in relief for the 2nd time this season. First time didn't go well. 2nd time went way worse. And he comes out after the game and says, honestly, haven't really figured out how to prepare coming into the game as a relief pitcher yet. So what do you do with Paul Blackburn if he doesn't figure out how to be a reliever? Then you had Tyler McGill not pitch well yesterday, absolutely blow up in the Mets' face. And then today, Griffin Canning with clearly his worst start so far of 2025. And it's coming off a stretch, although I think a bit exaggerated, where the Canning has just not looked like the same Griffin Canning from the first part of this season. So the starting rotation for me isn't a major flaw right now, and they're going to need to start finding answers. Ask me, I think the season really begins this week, and let's get into that, because this weekend is not only crapped on by the Mets getting swept, but the Phillies did some sweeping of their own. They finish off a 3-game stretch against the Blue Jays. They win all 3. Entered Friday evening with a 5.5 game lead over Philadelphia. It is now down to 2.5. So that's tough with them coming up on the schedule next weekend in Philadelphia. So when I say the season really begins right now, that's because the next 3 games, the Mets are going down to Atlanta, where historically they have never played well. The Braves rearranged their rotation to have Chris Sale go against the Mets in this upcoming series. Funny enough, he was supposed to pitch today. They end up losing to the Rockies 10-1. So, glad that happened. But either way, going to be tough for the Mets to hit Sale, who is still pitching at a very high level. And then, of course, they have a 3-game series in Philadelphia with the Phillies, who by then, I mean, who knows what's going to be the case. The Mets could even be bumped out of first place by then. I'm not going to get too worked up about the standings just yet, because, hey, this time 3 weeks ago, we were down 2.5 games. Then we went up to a 5.5 game lead. These are the ebbs and flows of a season, but it feels like this is really where the Mets need to lock in, need to get as healthy as they possibly can, because the gauntlet is on, starting now. Adam says, when's Manaea coming back? Manaea is coming back hopefully sometime next week, but he just had another rehab assignment today, and I don't believe it went very well. A couple earned runs and only about 2 innings in single A. So My guess is that he would, and that's actually because he is out of time on his minor league rehab assignment. There is a certain amount of time that you can have your assignment for, and I believe it's coming up this week. So he needs to be added to the active roster for the Mets, whether that's going to be in the rotation immediately or maybe even in the bullpen at least, just to get him more work. But hopefully he can just come back as a starter pitcher, keep his normal routine. But yeah, Manaea should be back this upcoming week. Stefan HML says, well, with only Peterson and Sang as the top starting pitchers and the small choice of relievers, only Garrett and Brazaban, you can only say the playoff matches goodbye, first round playoffs, and out. Ooh, that is damning from Stefan HML. Yeah, look, as currently constructed, this team probably is not going to win the World Series. But I do believe there's going to be additions, and we're going to get healthy. So you're going to get Sean Manaea back. You're going to see what you get out of Frankie Montas. At this point, my expectations are very low. But Griffin Canning hopefully can get back to form, or at least closer to it. I think Tyler McGill, just put him to the side. He's probably going to AAA. Maybe he comes out of the bullpen. Don't know. Not worried or thinking about him right now. But I think they're going to add some big-time relievers as well. Reed Garrett has been great. Brazaban has been great. Boy, it's been a struggle for what's his freaking Ryan Stanek. It feels like every time that Ryan Stanek has turned a corner, he comes right back out the other end and has another tough performance. Today was one of those. You're thinking it's a 6-0 game in the ninth inning. You're only asking him to get 3 outs from a Rays team that has completely ran circles around you, that needs to get on a plane to go to their next city and probably going to mail that ninth inning, but no. They put 2 men aboard, and he serves up a 3-run homer to Jonathan. So I'm worried about Stanek for sure. Last year in the regular season was not great. Very good in October for them in the playoffs. But to your point, Stefan HML, there's some cracks in this team's foundation. I do believe as they get healthier, they get some of the starting pitching back, they get Jesse Winker back, and hopefully they make some additions at this upcoming trade deadline. Receiver, maybe another bat, maybe even another starter. They could still be in a good position to win some playoff series and go all the way to the fall class. So it's only June. Don't freak out and pretend this is going to be the exact roster 3-4 months from now. But I hear you, and I'm with you. Let's see. RM, what's up, my man? Welcome back. How you doing? Appreciate you hopping in. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, whether you are a dad or to your father or to your grandfather or your uncles and all that, your brothers. So very, very cool. Let's see. Stefan says they have to build for next year. No, come on. It's not over. They're not rebuilding for next year. There's still 20 games over 500. There's still 2.5 games over the Phillies in the East. I mean, come on, man. Best record in the National League still. This was a bad weekend, but it's not the end of the world. It's not the end or it's not the beginning of the end for this team. But I will say this. It is very important to me how they look in these next 2 series with the Braves and with Philadelphia, especially on the road. I want to see better, crisper baseball. I want to see better situational hitting, getting some knocks with runners in scoring position. And I really want to see some more quality starting pitching from this team. So I need to see some signs from them over these 3 games in Atlanta and over the next weekend with Philadelphia. You cannot come out of that 6-game stretch 2-4, in my opinion. I think you need to, at a minimum, go 3-3. The Mets have a 2.5 game lead on Philly, 13 on Atlanta. So am I worried about the Braves right now? No, but they are our chief opponent in the National League East. Historically, they have always given the Mets fits. Philadelphia is a good team. They're coming off a sweep of their own from this weekend. We'll see what they do in this upcoming week, the series before us. But I think it's crucial the Mets, at a minimum, go 3-3 in these next 6 games with the Braves and with the Phillies. What would you sign for? What would you be okay with the Mets doing over these next 6 games with our 2 division rivals? 2-4 to me is just absolutely unacceptable. 4-2 would be great, but it also depends on how it happens, because if the Mets go 4-2 against those 2 teams, let's say, but they get swept by Philadelphia, but win 2 out of 3 against the Braves, that's a whole different ballgame. Now we're talking the Mets out of first place. So ideally 4-2, win both series and carry on. That would be great, but best laid plans don't always go the way you want them to. So Let's see. Adam says, are they getting Aroldis Chapman? I mean, I just made a video about that here on YouTube and on TikTok, and I said he would be the perfect addition to this bullpen. Problem is, the Red Sox just swept the Yankees. They're only 6.5 games back now of the Yankees in the American League East. They're creeping toward 500, so I don't really think that the Red Sox are necessarily going to be sellers at the deadline. I mean, they would have to really crash out over the next month and a half. And I think they have a pretty talented team. They just haven't lived up to their hype and expectations so far. So I hope they get Chapman, but the Mets are going to need Boston to start losing a lot of games for him to become available. So honestly, I think it's a pipe dream at this point. I haven't checked in on a lot of other left-handed relievers, but one right-handed reliever I would really like to see them have interest in is Bird from the Rockies. Dude has an ERA like around 1.4 or something like that. We saw him in that series last week against Colorado, struck out 3 consecutive batters with the bases loaded and nobody out. He has been dominant. So he is a guy I would definitely like to see the Mets check in on for sure to add to this corpse. Let's see. I'm going to have to go. Oh, I see what you're saying, Stefan. You don't mean like actually like blow it up. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a bad weekend. And, you know, like if we won today right now, like I don't think we'd be having this conversation and talking about we don't have enough to win it all and this and that. But like this is just kind of how it goes sometimes. When you get swept, you start to question everything about yourself, right? As a team, you start to wonder, like, are we as good as we really thought we were? Because like we were rolling right before this, 6 games in a row. And I think it was like 13 of like 16 or something like that. They just split with the Dodgers on the road. You took the season series from them. But when you get swept, all that confidence goes out the window and you start to wonder, wow, are we as good as we thought we were? This American League team in the Rays, man, like something about American League teams. I know the Mets have a decent record against them this year, but it always seems like when the Mets welcome in a foe from the American League, it's like they don't think the games count or matter for some reason. Like they just don't seem prepared for the games against some of these American League teams. And this is just totally sporadic. Like I just remember a couple years ago, it was always the Blue Jays. Whenever the Mets would play Toronto back when Springer was still in his prime and they had Vladdy as, you know, still have Vladdy, but you know what I mean? That whole group, they never could beat them for whatever reason. I don't know why. But it seems like that could be the case with this Rays team as well. But fortunately, I don't think the Mets are heading to Tampa to take them on this year. So that might be the last time we have to see them because, damn, that was rough. Boz chucked against the Mets today. 6 2/3, only 3 hits. Did walk 4 guys, but the Mets couldn't take advantage of it. You had an opportunity there in bottom 4. Down 4-0, bases loaded, but Pete Alonso ends up striking out. So definitely a tough one against the Rays. But let's see. RM 1042 says starting pitching should be the #1 concern going into the deadline. If we can add a proven quality starter along with Manaea coming back. Yeah, I mean, I would love that to be the case. I don't know who's available in that department, though. I don't think there's super sexy names that we're going to be like willing to sell a good piece of our farm system for. Like, I'm not interested in Sandy Alcantara. Like, count me out. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Tell me, because I don't want him. Try to convince me, because I'm looking at a guy that the Marlins ran his arm into the ground in a meaningless season back in 2022 when he won the Cy Young. Didn't pitch well in 23, ends up needing Tommy John, and since he's come back this year, has not looked good at all. He does have a very team-friendly contract, but I still believe because of that contract, the Marlins are going to seek a king's ransom, and I'm just not interested in that. If you're a Mets fan old enough to go back to when the Mets traded Scott Kazmir to the then Tampa Bay Devil Rays for Victor Zambrano, that was one of the worst trades in Mets history, and that seems like a repeat of trying to acquire a guy like Alcantara. So I'm not interested in someone like him, but if you have suggestions, I'd love to hear them, because I think if anything that the Mets dip their toes into the starting pitcher market, it's going to be for a lesser guy like a Kyle Freeland from Colorado or Mitch Keller pitching for Pittsburgh. But I don't think we're talking like big name blockbuster type starting pitcher for David Stearns and this front office looking to acquire here at the deadline. That's just my opinion on it. Let's see. Stefan says, yeah, for sure, pitchers are top priority. Okay, you're agreeing with RM. They could get Mason Miller. Yeah, they could. I don't think they're going to trade Mason Miller. Last year at the deadline, a lot of teams called the A's up, obviously, and wanted to see if he was available. The dude has still got team control in like 2030, so I don't think the A's are going to trade him, honestly. Like, I would love that, and I'm sure every team seeking bullpen help will be calling the A's about him again this year. But again, team control for like 4 or 5 more years. In my opinion, still the best closer in baseball, better than Edwin Diaz. I got to admit it, even though Diaz has been fantastic this season. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the case. That would be awesome if they do it. He's a right-hander, though. He is a closer. I don't know if he'd be willing to transition out of the closer role because you're obviously not going to move Diaz off of it. So I'm more focused on a like premier left-hand reliever to replace AJ Minter. But I think they definitely need another like quality arm. Like, this is kind of Stearns' like model. Like right now, find those Jose Castillos, those Brandon Waddells, guys like that to just kind of soak up innings here in May and June and even in parts of July. And then as we get closer to the deadline, go strike for one of those big name guys, or maybe promote a big name guy from their farm system to take on some of those real quality, high leverage innings later in the season and into October. But hey, it's a marathon. It's 162 games of 9-inning baseball. So you're going to have some guys that you hope stick and probably will, or they might for a little while, but then you realize, okay, they're not that type of dude. And then you end up moving on and hopefully acquiring some better options. So that's kind of how I feel. Let's see. Stefan says Frankie Montas stats are worse than McGill. So you heard that's the truth. I just posted a video about it today here on my YouTube and on my TikTok. He has been abysmal. 13 earned runs so far in his rehab assignment. I think that's spread out over 4 starts. So Carlos Mendoza said earlier in this week, I think it might have been right on Friday, that the Mets are planning to evaluate Montas in his last start. And Montas actually said he's willing to pitch out of the bullpen if they need it. He said they will do whatever he needs him to do to win ball games. So maybe Montas comes out of the bullpen for at least a little while, and then maybe they transition him to starter and put McGill back into AAA or vice versa, put McGill into the bullpen, bring Montas to the rotation, do something with Paul Blackburn. But yeah, Montas, it hasn't been good. I still don't understand how David Stearns thought giving him $17 million over the next 2 seasons was a good idea. But that's just me, as I just sip my coffee, sip my tea. RM says Senga, Peterson, Holmes, Minaya, and a good starter acquired in a trade in this rotation looks a whole lot better. That's my feeling about it, right? Like, we're freaking out right now because it's recency bias. It was a really bad look for them this weekend. Starters got rocked. Holmes left the game early. You get Senga back. You got Holmes hopefully still pitching well. You got Peterson hopefully pitching as great as he has been. And then you get Minaya back. Then you still have the depth of Paul Blackburn, maybe Tyler McGill just as like a swing starter kind of guy coming up and down from AAA, making spot starts. And I still believe in this rotation and the depth that it has. Plus Griffin Canning, of course. Let's not forget him. I always leave one of the guys out. There's so many names that I always seem to leave one of the starting pitcher options out of that list. But I still feel good about this starting rotation. Do I think it's going to continue to pitch to the best ERA in baseball? I'll be honest, no, I don't. But do I think they are still going to be very quality and keep them in more games than not? I do. And if the Mets offense can live up to its hype on a more consistent basis, well, then you might have something there. But it's been pretty one-sided for most of 2025. And lost in all of the pitching struggles from this weekend was the Mets bats. I mean, 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position on Friday. Today, 0 for 7. They left 12 men on base. Mets offense has really been boom or bust. They either seem to crush it for a series or they get shut down for an entire series. There's like no in between at all. And I know they score 5 runs on Friday and 4 runs yesterday, but just not enough. It's not enough. So Stefan says, are they going to use Blackburn as a starter again? I don't know, because he just said after his most recent, on Friday's relief appearance, he doesn't feel comfortable yet coming into the game as a reliever. He's spent his whole career as a starting pitcher. So I think they might I think there's going to be a time where they definitely do, especially with all the injuries, especially with Senga still used to having 5 days of rest in between start, with Anaya coming back from his own injury, and Montas, same situation with Clay Holmes on a potential innings limit this year. Yeah, I definitely think Blackburn will be used again as a starter, but concrete definitively throughout the rest of the season, is he in the rotation? No, I don't think that's going to be the case. But when they don't have that extra off day of, rest for their rotation, I definitely do believe that Blackburn will be used multiple more times as a starting pitcher or as an opener or as a bulk guy, this new term that I feel like they just created this year. So we'll see. And then I like this one from you, Adam. Jonah Tong. Yes, give me Jonah Tong. Dude is in Double-A Binghamton, and all he's doing is leading all of the minor leagues in strikeouts, somewhere like 95 so far in 58 innings. He looks electric, big over-the-top delivery, very reminiscent of Tim Lincecum, has a big hook curveball just like Lincecum did. So, man, he might be the best prospect in the Mets system right now. He is shooting up the listing for the Mets right now in the farm. It has been really, really cool to watch. I just made a video about him earlier this week. You can check that out after the stream. Yeah, Jonah Tong, it's possible. I wouldn't be surprised, man. I mean, Stearns has this thing, and he said it last year about Brandon Sproat, where he has put guys into AAA, and he's okay with them struggling. He actually might put them in AAA even before they're ready, because he actually wants to see them make an adjustment. So if that's the bouncing ball we're following, then my guess is Tong is probably going to go to AAA before he gets the call to the big leagues. But he is pretty exciting. And if he could pitch as well as he is down there in the bigs, I mean, that's a lot to happen. But if he could, or close to it, that's pretty hard temptation to turn down. So that'll be really, really interesting. I don't think it'll be this year. If I'm being honest, Stearns is going to always be thinking toward the future. He is not going to rush call guys up. I think in the case of Mauricio was a special one. He got the call because they had the injury to Mark Vientos. He was raking in AAA, even though it was a very short amount of time. But I don't think that Stearns is ever going to call up a prospect that he does not truly believe is ready to play in the big leagues. That is one of the biggest difference between Stearns and previous front offices for this organization. If you look back to 2022, you might also see a player on the current roster that they could have potentially stunted his growth. That's Brett Beatty. You remember Brett Beatty got called up in the middle of 2022. He does have that homer in his very first career at bat. It seems like ever since then, it's been all downhill for Brett Beatty's stock. I think they called him up too early. I think it stunted his growth. I put that on Billy Epler. That's not something David Stearns is going to do with some of the crown jewels in this farm system. So I don't think Jonah Tong gets the call here this year, but keeps pitching this way. I guarantee he'll be up to AAA this year. He'll make a push for it for 2025, but 2026, he might even open the year in the big league rotation. So good thing to keep an eye on. Stefan HML. But is Mendy to blame for the max 5 to 6 inning pitching limit with Holmes? It's damaging for the bullpen. You have to push your starters more to go give room for the bullpen to fresh up. So, I mean, look, it's a collaborative effort from Mendy to the training staff to the front office. And they have a plan of how they're planning to use Clay Holmes, considering he's already pitched more innings this year than he ever has in a single season in his career. And we know that because he was a reliever for his entire career. The most innings he ever threw in a single season was 70. He entered Friday's start with 73. So he's now thrown 78 pitches so far this year. So I don't blame Mendy. This is a plan that all of those groups have put together. Front office, Mendy, and the training staff to make sure he can pitch as deep into this season and hopefully deep into October for the Mets. So I don't blame him at all, but you're right. It takes a big tax then on the bullpen. And the plan on paper for Friday was actually perfect, if you ask me. You got a 5-1 lead, want to conserve Clay Holmes' innings, and you end up going to Paul Blackburn, who you're thinking, wow, this is perfect. He's a starter. He can easily go the last 4 innings of this game. It just didn't work out. And part of that is because Paul Blackburn's still not used to being a relief pitcher. So on paper, it sounded like a great plan. It sounded like a great way to conserve the rest of that bullpen and keep Holmes from pitching more innings, but it didn't work out. But I do expect that to continue to be their little, plan of doing things. I just said that word so many times, but I couldn't think of another one, so deal with it. But guys, what are you thinking? What are your takeaways from this series? For me, I'm just going to say, I don't think this is the end of the world at all. I don't think this is the beginning of the end or the beginning of a huge losing streak. Nothing like that. But some of the concerns have for sure started to arise from the rotation. We've known the team has not hit well with runners in scoring position. Young Mets, for the most part, haven't pulled their weight. You had Brett Beatty leaving this game with groin tightness. So injuries have been a concern as well, but again, I do believe they will correct course, and it starts this week. I want 4 out of 6 minimum against the Braves and the Phillies, preferably win both of those series, go 2-1 in both of them. Definitely don't want to lose the series to Philly. Definitely don't want to get swept by the Phillies. That would be pretty bad. Stephen says, I guess the pitching lab knows what they are. Oh, the pitching lab. Yeah. The pitching lab knows what's up, man. The pitching lab knows all. They're killing it, man. They've turned some real crazy turnarounds for the guys. I mean, last year, Luis Severino with Sean Manaea. This year so far, Griffin Canning, despite, pretty bad performance today. I believe in the pitching lab. Trust in the pitching lab. They know what's up. I've been talking a lot. Chat amongst yourselves while I have some of my Dunkin' latte. Oh, no, you're good, man. I'm blind as a bat, dude. I should be wearing glasses, so I'm squinting down at the chat to make sure I can read everything properly. I probably would have picked up on that better if I actually wore glasses or contacts. But I don't like the idea of touching my eyeball. I don't know about you. If you wear contacts, good for you, because I tried it. That ain't for me. That gives me the EBGBs. I'm not touching my eyeball. That's just weird. So I deal with it, and I just squint all the time trying to read all your guys' stuff here in the chat. So I don't know what's the better way to do it. Just toughen up, be a man about it, or just squint all the time and misread everything. But Jake Magnum, he had a pretty good series against us, didn't he? Magnum, the former Mets prospect. Then you had Eric Orce, who pitched well for them on Friday. He was the guy that the Mets traded Jose Siri for this offseason. Old Mets coming back to haunt this team. It's a tale as old as time, right? We've all been there and seen it with all kinds of different former Mets on different teams. It just never seems to fail, right? So frustrating for sure. Oh boy. All right. What are we at so far? I think we've been going for about 45 minutes or so. Guys, if you want to hit me with any questions, happy to do that for another 10 minutes or so. I'd love to hear from you guys. But also let me know, what else can I add to these streams that you guys would like to see in the future? Because I'm always open for it. Like I've said before, I'm always trying to get these Discord calls in here. We're still working on that. I've just had the most difficult time trying to get that all sorted out. But I do want to make this like a live phone call show where you guys can actually call in on Discord. I'll put you on the air here with me. We'll have a little back and forth. So that's definitely a feature I still want to include. But let me know about any other ideas you guys might have. But also hit me with some questions if you got any for the Mets, either from this weekend, from the season, history, anything like that. My time as a fan, I'm 30, so I've seen good amount of losing, but some bright spots as well. And of course, anything else in between. But I'll say this. I think that the best moment for me as a Mets fan in my life was probably in 2006, because that was the first real Mets team I can remember being as good as they were. I was 6 years old in the year 2000 when they lost the World Series to the Yankees. I still remember waking up the next morning asking my mom and dad, did the Mets win? They said no, and I cried. But, I didn't truly understand the magnitude of it at that point, being just 6 years old. But 2006 was the first time I got to really see the Mets be an elite baseball team. Endy Chavez's catch, that whole season though, leading up to the catch and horrible heartbreak of the Game 7 NLCS. That was definitely a special time for me. Real quick, before I take a look at the rest of the chat, Sean Manaea today in his Brooklyn rehab assignment, 2 1/3 innings pitched, gives up 4 earned runs on 5 hits and 2 walks, and he struck out 2. So coming back from his oblique strain that he had, this was his 3rd rehab start. It's not the greatest, obviously. 2 1/3, 4 runs. He gave up a homer, 2 walks. So a little concerning for sure. But look, they're usually working on one particular thing, one particular pitch in these rehab assignments. They'll stick to that same pitch the whole time. So you can't read too deeply into a rehab assignment usually. And I give the benefit of the doubt to Sean Manaea, who was so good last year in the second half and in October. But it's obviously just a little magnified because of how the starting pitching is pitched so far, or at least this weekend. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Stefan says, let's go Mets, gonna sleep. I live in Amsterdam. Hey man, that's super cool. I've been one time. I love Amsterdam. Great place. Appreciate you tuning in. That is awesome, man. Hope you have a great night's sleep. Tune back in again soon. Subscribe if you haven't already, man. Really cool to have you here with us. That is super cool. Amsterdam is an awesome city. I had a good time there. I went 10 years ago now, but that place is fun. I mean, in a lot of different ways, but that place is great. Great place, good food, good people. Love it out there. RM says, this may sound silly, but I notice when the weather is bad, the Mets play bad. Dude, I pick up on things like that all the time, so I don't think it's silly at all. I used to have this thing about Sundays. I was like, it's Sunday, the Mets are going to lose. Like, it's almost a guarantee. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. The weather was nasty on Friday. It was really nasty the whole weekend, right? I mean, I don't think today was even that great either. But yeah, man, you might be onto something. We need to do a little research on this. See what the Mets record is when it is 65 degrees or lower. Or if there's precipitation in the air or delay to a game. We need to find the research on this and it's out there. But I'm probably not going to. But I'm with you on this. The Mets don't seem to play all too well when it's a little chilly outside, for sure. So I don't think you're wrong at all, RM. That's pretty funny. I didn't actually think. But yeah, it does seem like the Mets are a little lethargic when it's rainy or when it's not the greatest weather day outside. For the most part, it's been good this year at Citi Field, right? In Queens. Like, I think they maybe have been rained out. I don't even know if they've been rained out this year. Have they? Like once this season. I know they've had a couple delays, but it got rained out in that game against St. Louis, but that was in St. Louis. But I don't think the Mets have been rained out for a game at Citi Field this year, which is weird because like last 4 years, it seems like there were like 5 or 6 the first 2 months of the season. So I don't know. I could be wrong about that. Don't fact check me. But all right, guys, look, I think that's going to do it. We've been going for about 50 minutes here, guys. I appreciate all of you hopping in. This is always fun. I appreciate you chiming in the chat. It helps me so much so we can talk different topics. I can interact with you guys. I don't feel like I'm repeating myself. So thank you guys very much for being as much a part of this as me. This has been really fun. Thank you to Adam. Thank you to Everyday Mets. Thank you to Stefan HML. Thank you to RM1042 and everybody else that tuned in and is watching at home. I hope you guys all enjoy your Father's Day with those in your life that you are celebrating with. It's a tough weekend for the Mets, but it is not the end of the road. They are going to be fine, but this is a big test coming up with the Phillies and with the Braves this week. Definitely be sure to tune back in tomorrow. I think, wait, hold on. Let me just double check this real quick before I officially tune off. I think they play tomorrow, or do they? No, the Mets are off tomorrow. Okay, I could use a mental day off from the Mets tomorrow anyway, so I'm kind of okay with that. But Tuesday, it begins. Mets and Braves down in Atlanta. David Peterson on the mound against Spencer Schwellenbach. So be sure to tune in back here for another post-game stream after that. And all my other daily Mets content. We'll have some more stuff coming out tonight and tomorrow, even on the off day. But that is going to do it for now, guys. Appreciate all of you. I am Tony Metro. Until next time, stay true to the orange and blue.